Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we're going to take you through a typical home inspection that we do in the springtime for property owners. In this case, a rental property owner contacted us to help out his tenants who are seeing wasps around their property and their shutters. So we came out to do a full inspection of this property, and we'll show you the simple tools we use and take you right through the process of how to remove wasp nests from behind decorative shutters like you see here. Paper wasps love these spaces. Every spring they start building their nests behind these. As you can see here, some of these shutters were filled with old nests. Some had one or two wasps in them. Right here you can see one bailing out. There goes a female new foundress, new queen right there. And most paper wasps are very docile. They're great hunters. They're good pollinators. They are biological control agents that hunt pest insects, and they can keep your pest insects down at your property. So if you don't mind them back there, they don't do any damage, we recommend you leave them there. But if you need to get rid of them or prevent them from coming in, we'll show you some techniques like molding a simple piece of screen that you can mold like clay right into any space behind these shutters and permanently block that space so that you don't have an open space like you see here where wasps can move in. There's some very simple techniques that we'll show you, and hopefully you can repeat on your own. We'll show you also how we go through a typical home inspection on the outside looking for wasp nests or points of entry into the home. As you see here, we're checking the vents. Vents inside structures should have good screens, and as you see here, some of this screen is damaged, so that's going to be a problem point that we'll recommend the client fix. You want to check your AC units, any vents like this, laundry vents, whatnot, coming out of the home. You want to fill all those gaps. You want to look in all of your open light fixtures and make sure that you don't have paper wasps in there like you see here. And just screen them off or put glass or plastic lenses in there so you don't have to deal with these wasps every year. You want to check your siding for holes and cracks like you see here. Anything like this is just an open welcome mat for wasps and bees to come into your home. Split screens like you see here with holes, they all need to be fixed. Anything in your soffit, holes like this, or separated soffit pieces like that, all of these sorts of little nooks and crannies are very easy to fill with all-weather silicone, or just readjust your soffit pieces, just blocking the areas that wasp queens might come into in the springtime to build a nest. Make sure you look under your furniture as you see here and close up any holes and gaps you see in screens. Very simple things. Just duct taping holes and duct taping screens can be a quick field expedient repair until you can get the screen replaced. And we'll walk you through some of these simple techniques that literally anybody can do for free, basically, if you have a roll of duct tape and a few simple tools. Just with household items you may have laying around your house or your garage. Here's an old antenna we use to get back behind some of these shutters that we don't want to remove because they're old and they're delicate, so we want to just reach behind them to remove nests. The rod Katie's using is an old piece of garden stake. These are just field expedient tools that you can just create for the job that you need. So as you ride along with us on this home inspection, we hope you'll learn some real simple techniques that won't cost you any money and that can make you a little bit more self-sufficient when it comes to preparing your home in the springtime to deal with wasps. Now, like we said, if you can leave the wasps alone and let them nest behind shutters, paper wasps don't do any physical damage to a building, so it's great to just let them be there. But if you have venom allergies and you need them all gone, or if there's an aesthetic issue, or there's just a simple reason why you can't have them there, go ahead and use some of these simple and affordable techniques and you'll be all set for the summertime. For now, let's take you back to May 2nd, 2025, and you can ride along with us through the entire inspection. All right, it's May 2nd, 2025. I'm here with Katie from the Manchester University Wasp Survey Team. She's armed with her wand of relocating wasps. I don't know what we would call it. We'll call it something, but we're documenting first a lot of paper wasps here behind shutters. So we first have to document that there's some existing damage to these already. And we've made some recommendations to the property owner regarding how to prevent these shutters from becoming wasp homes. Today what we're going to do is remove as many of them as we can reach with these little tools. I've got just whatever tools we could make work behind these small spaces. So what we're going to do is slide things back, knock nests out, and then we're going to vacuum out the wasps. We'll try to relocate what we can, but that's not the priority. The main priority here is just getting them down and out of the way because we may have an allergy issue here with a tenant who has venom allergies, so we'll see how it goes. So these were pretty old shutters on this rental property, and we didn't want to touch them. We didn't want to try to remove them. We didn't want to unscrew them and strip out the old screws or anything like that. So we're just reaching behind there with these makeshift tools to remove any nests we could find. And with old siding in particular like this, you want to make sure that you don't scratch up the siding with whatever tools you're using. So we kind of wrapped the edges of one of the sharper ones with tape just to make sure it wasn't going to scratch anything up back there. But that is something you have to be careful of. And shutters like these are fake shutters, and they're there just for aesthetics. And what we recommend is if you're having a lot of problems with these, then you should just remove them. That's the easiest thing to do. Take them off either during the summer months and put them back on in the winter months, or just leave them off permanently and do something else to decorate your windows. We're removing this kind of thing. Paper wasp nest. It's made out of wood fiber and wasp saliva. And it's very tough material, very strong. Just like a soft wood, it'll last quite a long time, maybe forever if it doesn't get too wet. So with paper wasps, which are typically the wasps that will live behind these shutters, they're harmless wasps. They don't damage properties. They don't have any issue with the structural integrity of the building. That's different than yellow jackets. Yellow jackets will actually chew up the wood on a building and whatnot, but paper wasps, they don't do that. So if they're not bothering you, if they're in a location where they're not going to be a danger to anyone, just leave them behind the shutters. They'll take care of a lot of the pest insects on your property all season, and it's a good safe place for them to live, and no one can see them, so why not leave them there? But if you have venom allergies and they have to go, or something like that is involved, then go ahead and do what you got to do. So what you see us doing here is checking all the various gaps that we find in the porch area, just making sure there's no wasp nests hiding behind shutters or in light fixtures or underneath furniture or in the gaps of the soffits and things like that. Anything that's obvious, we want to check and try to remove for this client who is the property owner. And the tenant there may have venom allergies, so you just want to make sure that everybody's safe. And this is an excellent property owner. They get ahead of things. If there's anything we point out that needs to be repaired, they immediately take care of it. That's what you want to do as a property owner. So we're using these makeshift tools to get down behind these awkward spaces. If you have shutters like these and they're next to an area where you have a lot of people, we recommend you completely remove these. Just find another way to decorate your windows because they will always attract rust. That said, if you're going to keep them, you can fill and seal all of the gaps around them if you need to. You can put in black screen or steel wool or hog's hair filter, that type of thing that will keep all of that void space filled up and won't allow any wasps the room to build a nest. So that's an option. So I would get rid of them personally if it was me, but you don't have to. There are ways to make it work and keep it wasp free. But they're going to attract wasps every year. As you can see on the porch area here, if you're sitting in this chair kind of relaxed, your head is right where they're going to be flying in all the time. And that's just a nuisance and can be dangerous if you have venom allergy. That's why I recommend we get rid of them when you can. Stick away from the siding when you can, so you don't want to have too much. When you replace these and get rid of them, you don't want to have the So you see Katie checking these utility boxes. What we see a lot of times. The dialogue got drowned out here by a landscaping crew that showed up at the next property. So what we're explaining here is that utility boxes like this, they always have holes that go into the building. And that's a problem. You need to fill those gaps with silicone all-weather sealant that holds up in cold or hot weather. Don't use regular caulk because regular caulk is typically not made for that type of use. You want to use some type of exterior silicone is usually the best bet with these. And that'll prevent the wasp queens from finding the holes, and they'll find every hole on your building that you don't seal. And then they'll make a big nest in the building. Here we see a really big hole right up in here. That siding hole will absolutely attract yellow jacket queens. And they will try to get in there and then enter the attic or the wall space and make a nest. So if you have something like that on your property, really important that you seal that immediately before springtime queens can find it, because they will find it. Same with honeybees. That's just a welcome door right there, welcoming them into the building. So to illustrate what this looks like, here is some footage from a previous nest that was being built by a queen yellow jacket inside the wall cavity of a barn. She had found entry through this hole in the wall, an old nail hole, and that's all she needed to get in and out, bring in material to build her nest with. That's what you're going to be preventing by filling up this type of gaps. We're going to slow the footage down here and show you closely what she's actually doing. You see this ball of material that she's bringing back in her mouth, clamped into her mandibles. That is wood fiber that she collected out in the wild, and she mixed with her saliva, and that's what she's going to build her nest with, like all social wasps do. So what we're trying to do here is fill these gaps to prevent this type of activity by queens in the springtime. Now on the other side of the wall, inside the structure, you're going to have something like this. You'll have a nest with multiple layers, thousands of wasps, a lot of paper envelope covering up the brood comb. This is just yellow jackets, not paper wasps, but yellow jackets will do this inside the building. So the queen that was coming in and out of that little hole in the springtime, she grows a nest into this. And this is what you don't want inside your building. Between the stud bays, between the floor joists, up in the attic, wherever it is, you want to prevent it. Because as you see here, to get them out of there, you're going to have to do some demolition on the interior of the building typically, taking out wall, drywall, ceiling, whatever, to get to the nest to remove it. And this is what we're trying to prevent through simple springtime exclusion of insects. And again, with this type of massive nest in a structure, we're talking about yellow jackets. That's the Vespula species of social wasps. We're not talking about paper wasps, the type that have open comb with no paper covering the comb, and they're tucked in behind your window shutters. Those are paper wasps. They will not do this to your structure, but yellow jackets will. But all of them will enter through similar holes in the building. So seal up those holes if you don't want to see this in your future. So this screen is separating from the door. It needs to be replaced, or wasps will find this crack and they will live in there. And then they'll set up a nest right up in the corner of the doorway typically, and they can sting people walking in and out. So it's always a good idea to replace any screens that have an issue. You can try to tape them and repair them. Often that just doesn't work. And they're old, there's other holes in it. You want to replace anything like this as soon as you can. You can actually use the screen and recycle it to fill some of the gaps between the shutters and the walls so they don't go to waste. One place we often see nests is in light fixtures. You got one in there? Is it alive? Or is that a historically old one from a previous season?
At least two from a previous season.
Okay.
And a mud dauber.
And a dauber? Okay, so that's a mud wasp. So we're going to remove all of these. Yep, that one's hatched out. And you can tell it's hatched out because of the holes in the mud. When they hatch out, the larvae crawl out of their cell, and then they chew a hole in the mud to escape their special little house that was built by the foundress of this nest. And so this one's old. Let's see what's in there. Yep, there you go. They love these types of fixtures, paper wasps. So if you don't have a screen here, you're going to have this issue every year. Go ahead and remove those. Great, let's see what you got. That's an interesting looking one. See, this is a double layered one, and the reason this happens is that in one season, the base piece was made. In another season, the second piece was added on. So these probably represent at least one or two seasons. And there's another there. So this is what you're gonna get in every lighting fixture that you don't secure with some type of screen. See up here, that Katie was pointing out on the other end here, these gaps right up above where this corner piece of molding is, you're going to see a big gap up there that wasps love. They love going up into that type of space, and it's really important to fill all that with expandable foam or silicone, weatherproof sealant, whatever you have. Otherwise, you're just going to keep dealing with the same issue every year of more wasps using that as a home base and possibly finding their way into your wall cavities or your attic spaces. If they're just up in the soffits, it's not a big deal. These are all exterior soffits. The problem is if they're a big yellow jacket colony, they might chew their way through the wood in the soffit, through the wall, into the building if they need to expand that direction, or just start the nest back there if the queen decides to do that. So the more of this space you can fill, the better. Now in other spots around here, we've got soffit space that they also like. So up in these soffit spaces, you'll end up with issues like this. There's holes in the soffit here where they can get in, and there's separated soffit over here. And they can get in spots like that as well, and they'll set nests up in there. So ideally you'd want to seal up all these spaces and all these cracks and holes and make sure they can't get in. That's exclusion. So here in the corner at the back of the house, again, holes in the soffit, anything like that, they're going to want to fill that sort of thing to minimize the number of wasps that may want to move in there. Here, looking down from the front, right there, and these gaps will need to be fixed a little bit. Keep the wasps out. If you have venom allergies, check your furniture out, because you never know when there's going to be nesting on the bottoms of these types of furniture. Yeah. Let's check out this light. Here again we have an open space. This one did not attract any wasps yet, but it will. It's just a matter of time. So you're going to want to fill this type of gap with some type of screen or glass or plastic whenever you can. On the back side, luckily there's no shutters back here. That's a good thing. And this is what we recommend you do with your front side of the building as well. The shutters are not necessary. They don't have any particular function beyond aesthetics. And if they just bring you problems with bats or with bees or with wasps every year, just get rid of them.
The screen is broken away behind that vent. See?
Katie's pointing out up above the vent, there's a screen in the very top part of the vent that's separated from the rest of the structure that it's supposed to be protecting. That screen will be needing replacement.
And it looks, there's a nest. Doesn't look active.
Yeah, an old paper wasp nest up there. So yeah, you will definitely get issues up there if you have a screen vent like that with holes in it or gaps. Good eyes, we'll have to mention that to the client so they know to get that dealt with, as well as the rest of the gaps along their soffit and siding. Spots for paper wasps also. They'll hide in these corners underneath here. We can't get much access to something like this, but just for reference so people understand, you're always going to want to check these things out every year. Just remove the grate, get in there, clean out any nests, and then replace your grate. Over here, we have a possible yellow jacket entry point. You see how much gap space there is here? That's enough for yellow jackets or even bees to get through. This should all be siliconed with weatherproof sealant so that there's no possibility for insects to infest through this pipe hole. And it looks like maybe a laundry machine vent, but that's exactly the type of thing we're talking about. It needs to be sealed up. There's some old nests in there. These are all hatched out from a previous season. Here we're going to freeze the frame for just a second. It turns out there was one live wasp nest back there because there was a foundress that we had scared out of this area while we were cleaning out the old nests. There she is bailing out. I don't think we even noticed this wasp as she took off. That shows you how docile paper wasps typically are, especially early in the season when there's no large nest to defend. She just took off, didn't bother trying to sting us or anything. And here we have a common situation where another utility line or internet line or cable, whatever it is, coming through here. This was properly done because it's small enough that no flying insect can get through these holes. And that's the key. Either you make the entry point small enough around the cable, or you have to fill it with some type of sealant. But this one's small enough that nothing can really get in there that's a sizable flying insect. There's a bunch of them in there from the previous year. So all of these gaps in the siding, where the shutter meets the siding, should be filled with some kind of material. Steel wool, hog's hair, filter, whatever you want to do. You can put in small wedges of wood, whatever will close those gaps, because otherwise every year you'll get more paper wasps. And typically paper wasps don't really cause any structural damage, so if they don't bother you, let them live there. It's a great place for them to live. It's out of the way, as long as it's not near a main entry point where the door's opening and closing right around them all the time. This is a good spot to let them live because they are very beneficial insects. They'll take care of a lot of pollination and biological control of native pests and everything that they get out of the ecosystem that you don't want around your yard anyway. They will hunt those bugs all summer, and it's a great place to let them live when they're in a spot like that, unless you have venom allergies, in which case everything has to go. Here again we have some older nests from previous seasons, it looks like, that are all hatched out. Now on the inspection day when we came out initially a couple days ago, we did see on this wall some active nests, so be ready for that.
Here's a former Baldy.
Yeah? Let's see. So Katie has discovered a former bald-faced hornet's nest. You see up there is the base of it still connected to that vent. And that was a small nest that was never finished, it appears, from another season. That's a bald-faced hornet nest, Dolichovespula maculata. It's a local beneficial aerial yellow jacket species, despite the fact we call them hornets, which is a bit of a misnomer for them. They're actually related to yellow jackets. I've got the long pole if we want to try to knock it. Okay, we've got some back here. These are probably hatched out from a previous season. Don't see any live wasps in there with them. Katie will get those in just a second, but we want to just give you a visual of what this looks like behind these shutters and how much room there is back there. There's just tons of space for all sorts of different insects. Even bats have been known to be back here, and even probably a small bird could get a nest back in there. So it's always best to close these up if you can. This is where we saw them during the inspection. There was a couple live wasps hanging out on one of these.
I see one on this bay.
Okay, let's go ahead and knock it.
One more up. And it's up.
Yeah, there you go. I hear another one in there. There you go. Up here.
It's right there. It's really, yeah, you got it. You knocked it down on it.
I hear another one. Okay. Yeah, there's more back there somewhere.
I can see it. Nice.
Okay, so, see anything else? The one that was alive was up in here somewhere. The other day I got a picture of it, sent it to the client. You want the bigger one?
Yeah. You can see it from the side.
Yeah, there it is. Got it. All right, good job. Well, that was easy. We didn't find any live ones.
Not today.
Well, we saw them the other day. I was not hallucinating, I promise you.
Yeah.
So anyway, somewhere the wasp will come back and find their house is missing. Katie has cut a piece of screen, and what we do is we roll these up into a shape that'll fit inside the back of the gap on those shutters. And this can be a useful thing to do to block wasps from coming in there, because the wasps will still explore the space, but they'll realize that there's no room to build a nest and they will not continue building. And that's the idea. This time of year is just excluding them as best you can. So we're going to make kind of a thick enough roll to fill that gap, and we're going to tuck it in behind the shutter gaps wherever the siding leaves a gap. And this is just one of many ways and many different materials you could use to fill. Katie came up with a good idea to use back blocking, which is like a pool noodle type foam that they use to stick in between foundations and buildings, that sort of thing, wherever there's a large gap between building pieces. You can fill with that foam, and that's not a bad idea either. But we're going to show you what this looks like when we install some screen. It's a pretty moldable material, which is handy because you can just sort of push it like clay, mold it in wherever it needs to go. And it's dark colored, so it doesn't stand out. It looks like shadow from a distance, and it completely fills that gap. And that allows for no wasp-sized, bee-sized insect to pass through there. It just blocks the space. So, as you can see, from back here, you can't even tell that's there. But when you look up close, it's completely filled, that gap. And now a wasp queen who comes to explore here will turn around and go somewhere else, and that's what we want. We want her to build somewhere else. Otherwise, you have this, a huge space that you can do anything with. But down here, now we're blocked. Great. Thank you. So here we have Katie with some duct tape, just a brief, easy repair. This type of old utility hole is exactly where wasps will go into a frame, and then they'll get stuck inside, or if there's a hole like this one inside the interior wood, they'll go into the house even. So you don't want that. She's gonna cover that up just with a little tape. It's a temporary measure. Obviously it wouldn't be a permanent fix, but you'd wanna replace this screen or permanently fill it with some type of silicone or something. But for now, we're just going to close that hole up because the rest of the screen is pretty new and pretty tight. It looks pretty good. So that is it for that one. Let's put a little tape along the side of this screen and back. So here we're going to tape this hole in the screen. And then we're going to open it up and we'll put another piece of tape on the back. I'll hold it for counter pressure, or you can hold it for counter pressure there. You got it? Can you reach? Okay. That's great. This is, again, a temporary measure, but it should be done, especially when someone has allergies. You just need to be careful. All these seams here along the side where we have separation, we're going to do the same thing. Just take a long piece of tape on that side and a long piece of tape on this side, squeeze them together, and it's just a quick, expedient field repair just to keep the tenant safe until they can actually replace the screen. That covers the whole split part of the screen and allows for a little bit of safety on our way out, which is the best we can do for now. Now Katie's going to put another piece all the way down and seal it on both sides like this one, just for a little bit of extra strength. That looks great. That'll do it for now.
Great,
at least there's nothing there
is
that they can get through. Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, it works great.
It works.
Great is generous, but functional, maybe. We'll give it that for sure. All right. Thanks, Katie.